sharing your work with us. This was an amazingly powerful film and very, very timely, considering, that we were just, everybody is being thrown into a war. Not just the Ukrainian people, not just the Russian people, everybody has been, included in that. And right now, I mean, the toll that it's taking on everybody collectively, particularly the refugees, is just heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. So can you just kind of speak to the impetus? What made you?
I come from a family of Holocaust. The whole of my life, I couldn't understand why no one did anything in the Holocaust. The whole of my life, it's a question I asked. I was always brought up very multiculturally. I have a foundation that works in Kenya, Rwanda, Aborigines, all around the world. And that's where I've been brought up. So when this happened, I couldn't believe the world's doing nothing again. 70 years later. And I just couldn't, if I sat at home, I would have been one of those people my whole life. I thought, why are they doing nothing? So my foundation, we had about hundreds of t-shirts, new t-shirts made. I just got on a plane, I've never been to Poland before. My father was actually a Polish Jew. Got on the plane, got there, and I was told to go to this pop-up shop, which was incredible. What they did was amazing. They thought it out. These people, they were all Holocaust survivors' children running it. No, not running it, who taught people how to run it. It was run by Ukrainian refugees who were paid to do it. And you don't call people refugees, you call them ladies.
Call them?
Ladies.
Ladies?
Because they were women.
Oh, yeah, well, that's right, the men
Yeah, the men are in the up. So you never call them refugees, you call them ladies.
Okay.
They have a shop where you don't say, can I have this please? So you're begging. They pretend it's a checkout where they have a computer, they mark off what you've taken, so you think you're in a queue mentally. They wrap it up, they have a bakery there, they have a hot food restaurant there. They did this within 2 weeks of the war and they're still doing it. It's amazing. And they have drivers from America, from all around the world, who've come to take stuff actually into Ukraine. Then you get to the border, which is absolutely horrifying. There's no UNICEF. I mean, UNICEF have been, in my opinion, of what I've seen, appalling. There are people wandering around everywhere. There's trafficking going on in front of my face. There are poor people who are so tired, they don't know where they're going to. So they're going on a coach, they said they want to go to Berlin. The coaches aren't labelled. They've got all the traffickers with their cars right by the coaches saying, I'll give you a lift. You've got people, I could have walked out that train station with 2 babies and no one would have stopped me. 100 children went missing a few weeks ago. And it's absolutely awful and these people are dazed.
So in terms of just accountability, have the government or authorities been able to to account for these people and recover the children? It's
only in the last few weeks that actually people have been taught. People have come and taught them how to register people. They weren't registering anyone. Poland is a poor country, it's a small country. Suddenly millions of people are, and the Polish are being absolutely fantastic, but it's not sustainable anywhere. And the other thing that worries me are these charities. Everywhere everyone's getting money, money, money. What's the plan?
And the other thing, I know, and this is probably not politically correct, but we look at all the money that's coming in to fight the Russian war. It's like every 2 weeks, every week, there's $1 billion
Where's it
plan, $1 billion package going into the Ukraine to help fight for democracy, but we don't see any change, and we don't see, the support that people really need. Coming through.
Well, I have to say, I think England have been appalling, and I'm English. I think they've been absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
They sent all the refugees first to Paris, then to Lille, then somewhere else, and they're shocking. So I think it's been terrible. But I think, people are trying, but you don't speak the language.
Right.
And I think also, if you have refugees in your country and you're going to take them in your home, be aware you've got traumatized people.
Absolutely, and that's where the training, and that's where the compassion, and that's where the education comes in. To be able to not just throw somebody in your home, but to be able to place them in your home and to be able to have support that's helping the people deal with the situation.
Totally right.
That the emotional and the mental and the traumatic issues that people are dealing with.
Totally. You've really hit it, or you've had something that no one's even thought about, and you're so right.
And that's part of the issue. And the other thing, just in terms of what we're seeing now, is the difference in narrative. the narrative that people are getting, what is actually happening in the war versus what the media is telling us that's happening in the war, what the media is not telling us that's happening in the war.
Yeah.
And that's, that's something that really needs to be more standardized.
Yeah,
because we don't know. And then, there are stories that aren't being told. Like, for example, the African students, med students, and people that were turned away. That wasn't even in the news. I mean, it was in the news like
in the news
a day.
Yeah, it was here for a day, but no one said what the result was or what was happening.
We heard that Al Sharpton. We heard that Al Sharpton was actually going to check out the situation, see what was happening, and Don Lemon was going to see what was happening in the situation, and we never heard anything about it. I mean, I heard about it through word of mouth. So perhaps you can talk a little bit about, what you may have seen with that situation.
Well, what I saw basically was the trafficking, which was horrific. An Englishman came up and said, "I'll take." You had no names, no NGO names. I'm transport. I'm in charge of children, but no one therapists walking around, young girls walking around therapists. It was shocking. And the people on transport was the girl who put these people in a private car. And
you haven't even, and nobody's seen or heard from them again.
No.
That's heartbreaking. It really is. In terms of what you see as a better solution to what's happening right now, where do you see this going, in your opinion?
First of all, I think I'm going to be very, very American here probably, when they had all those tracks lined up Russia, they should have bombed the whole lot.
Right.
That should have happened then.
Right.
If this is what's happening now, everyone who's got an atomic bomb is going to get their own way because everyone's going to sit back and watch like they have now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, quite frankly, they should have done it far earlier. I don't think anyone's going to press that button because they like themselves too much.
Yeah.
And I think they should have just done it immediately.
And that's a threat. And that started. I think that started with the former president that was in charge, because he let a lot of this stuff also get out of hand.
Trump.
45. We don't really call him by name. Some of us don't anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of that got out of hand and was unchecked. And now this situation is happening, and the United States has not really been able to wrap their hands around it.
The United States has been surprisingly weak.
Yeah, and they haven't been able to wrap their hands around it to the extent where there's really a big difference being made. Again, we hear a lot about what we're sending, but at the end of the day, I mean, we've got the Afghanistan war situation where we've got refugees coming in.
Yeah.
We've got the Mexican situation where people are coming in, and that's like its own situation. Now we have this, and then there are people from all other nationalities trying to come in, particularly folks of color as well, Africans and people from African countries. And though sometimes they get a bad rap, and they're some of the smartest people, some of the brightest people. Some of the brightest people that are coming, and it's such a discrepancy in how people are being treated. I mean, even in the Holocaust situation, I mean, it's just.
Well, it's 17 years later, and it's exactly the same thing.
And it's the exact same thing.
Well, it's not, because they're not going. I have to say, they're not going to gas camps, hopefully, ever, and they're not 6 million who are going to be killed, murdered.
Right.
But there are people being murdered. There are people being raped. We are in modern day Europe, and Europe is behaving as they were
in the 30s and the 40s. Yeah. So we're in terms of your foundation. Tell us a little bit more about.
My foundation is Films Without Borders. We have our African partners, which is the Sandy Bora Foundation, which are fantastic, and they are marvelous partners that work with us in Kenya. We work in Rwanda. We work in Palestine and Israel. We work with Aboriginals. We work with Jews. We try and work with people who really people don't even look at or go to or want to go to. We work in the slums in Kenya, where they are super bright, I have to tell you.
Right.
So we work, and when this came up, we just, Christina Estrada gave us all these T-shirts. We went out and we gave, and for a refugee to be given something new, That's what makes it. You can see them hugging it.
It makes a
That's
difference.
what makes a difference.
One man's junk
Yeah.
is another man's treasure.
Yeah.
And we fail to, everything is so, we get things at our fingertips. I
Yeah.
mean, like general, middle America.
Yeah.
But there are so many people that are below the poverty line that do not have an education. People in third world countries that, value education. And people here, education gets thrown out the window.
I think everything comes. I think this whole war comes down to education.
Yeah.
I think everything comes down to education.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything comes down to from a child meeting a person of color, meeting a Jewish person, meeting a Palestinian person, meeting a Muslim. Why are we all calling each other different names now? Why are we calling each other people of color? We should be Jill, John.
Yeah, and
This
that's
is ridiculous to make this, in my eyes, to make this
to make such a
segregation
distinct
all the way through. I think that's
Mhm.
actually as racially charged
Yeah,
as it is. We're in a time where everyone's calling everyone by labels.
and that's that's part of the division.
Yeah.
Um,
But I do think the one thing for Ukraine, going back to Ukraine, that's very important. People have to know one thing. You can't go there and be a therapist if you don't speak the language.
right.
They're traumatized.
Mhm.
I should never have been allowed near such traumatized people. You don't speak the language, they're traumatized, they're not going to try and speak English to you.
Hmm.
Don't go over there if you're not a qualified person and you're not with a qualified NGO.
Right.
Try and get registered people there. Only go if you're going to do something. Don't go if you think you're going to go and stare and help for 5 minutes.
And then just again abandon
Exactly.
people because
Don't
that's
do
part
that.
of the trauma.
And
that's
sort
going on.
out UNICEF. We've got to sort out. They've got to get their act together. They're appalling, as far as I can see. I know it's it's not right to say this. They're disgusting. I phoned them myself when someone's being trafficked.
Mhm.
It says press 1 to donate, press 2 to donate,
And you
press
can't
3
get-
to
and you
donate.
can't get a person anymore.
And then it says email, and I did email, and no one responded. And this is a month, 3 weeks ago. I've not had a word back. Where is their money going to? They should have trackers on everyone who comes in.
Right.
They should have. They're being given SIM phones for the phone.
Mhm.
They should have in Ukrainian emergency number.
Mhm.
When you come in, there should be billboards that say, "Do not take a lift from a private person. They
Right.
sell your kidneys. They go
Yes.
to prostitution." Make it horrible but true.
This is
There's
so
nothing.
this is so important. I mean, just
Nothing.
things that we need to think about, and things that the people that are in the position of
Yeah.
providing care and providing resources. These are the things that
They're hopeless.
that need to be
They were
streamlined.
bringing Angelina Jolie over, and they sat her by a bed of some poor girl who'd just woken up for an operation to have about 25 cameras around her.
It's
And
just like
Angelina, does she speak Ukrainian? They're smiling.
And yes, that's,
And then
that's
Orlando
probably what they
Bloom
said. They-
comes and they didn't even know who Orlando Bloom is, these young people.
Oh
It's
wow!
ridiculous.
Yeah, wow.
That's
wow.
what they did up there.
And that again, that's just the combination of lack of education, lack of putting the common sense to what the problem is, and having
Too much money.
having too much money and not knowing what to do with
No,
it.
there's no one that's got a plan. And I can see this time next year, there'll be no homes for them, no clothes for them, no schools for them, no health for them, because all the money's gone.
And we don't know where it's going,
No.
or did they say
No
they were
one
going to
knows.
write the
Half
check
of these
and
people
not
are-
write the check, or
Half of these people are not registered charities anyway, so it could be going
So
anywhere. It's
somebody
just
just-
sloshing around. Yeah.
somebody just spent it? I mean,
Who knows? I mean, we'll know in a year's time when they're all
Right.
sitting there with no home to go to, nothing rebuilt, or in Poland where they've got no money at all. Who's going to pay for
Right.
those schools and those?
And and they're supposed to be supplementing, there's supposed to be supplementary aid here in the United States as well
Yeah.
to help people relocate for 2 years. So we don't know how that process is going.
No,
So
and
there's-
also the process of this is taking so long. I mean, I have to say, the Israelis were out there in a week. In 10 days, they had a machine where you fingerprinted people. In 2 hours, you knew who was going and everything about them.
oh wow.
And they tried to teach the British, who
Mhm.
went back to form number 21, number 22, number 3.
Mhm.
Because don't forget, that's a country of immigration, of
Right, right.
emergency.
Mhm.
So at least they're trying to share their knowledge. But at least they did something right somewhere.
So is there like an immigration agency, or like a centralized agency in the Ukraine that is?
No!
There's not even that.
No, I mean, I know that when the Israelis
That
came
could
over, they were trying
coordinate
to
that
teach
stuff.
them how to, they were trying to teach them how to do it. They went and they taught them how to register people. They had now come over the border, they register, they say if they want to go to Germany, if they want to go to here, there and everywhere. But people have to realize if you're taking people in your home, you are taking traumatized, mentally traumatized, terrified human beings going into a different culture, a different environment, different food, sometimes different religions, sometimes divorced families where there's a man with a woman and a child. Now that's also not exactly satisfactory in some cases.
Right, right.
And it's the same position now as it was when they started the war. I don't think enough checks are being done. It should be done very quickly.
Immediately. I mean, it's an
And
emergency
people,
situation.
it should be known, these are traumatized people. Do not take them in your home if you don't feel. There are a lot of people who've taken people in who've got homes like garden houses they've made into homes. Now that's perfect, so they've got space.
And they've got privacy, yeah.
Yes.
Because I mean,
You can't
It's-
expect these people just to
to
come
just
in and sit down
integrate-
and join in your culture.
integrate, into your family like day one,
And they're
then
crying.
and
Their
then-
parents and their husbands are fighting. Their child might have died. Their parents might be still in Ukraine.
and they're being tortured.
And there's and terrible things happen. They think they're going to come into your house and sit down and have Sunday lunch with you. It's just not.
And
gonna
it's just
happen.
not happening.
No.
Yeah, some people don't eat pork, for
Yeah,
example. You know,
exactly,
like
yeah.
Muslims,
Everything, yeah,
or
absolutely.
whatever it might be. Yeah. So, so we kind of talked a little bit about like the, what you see could be, be better.
Yeah.
What some of the basic operational tools
Yeah.
that could be better. When do you see an end to this war?
I really hope so. I really, really hope so. And I feel sorry, I have to say, for the Russian people on the ground, older people who are having rations on food. Suddenly Russian people can't use a credit card to leave their own country because they're
Right.
terrified. They don't all agree with this at all.
Right.
Some do,
Yeah.
some don't.
Mhm.
But I feel that it's got to end. I think it has to end, and it has to end soon. I can't see this other country step in and really take control of this. It will.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, this is going to be a whole generation like the Holocaust of children who are going to be hating Ukrainians.
Mhm.
They're going to be hating Russians. And there's going to be such hate that will go through generation after generation. I mean, my generation now, I've been to Germany. No one else in my family has been to Germany since the Holocaust.
Mhm.
And we love it in Berlin. And it's filled with people now who are Jewish in Berlin, but this taken 70 years.
Yeah, it has. And then when the Berlin Wall came down,
Yeah.
I mean that was the beginning of it. But I mean, still, the people on the other side are not getting the same information. So it's always the
Not
back.
at all.
Yeah, it's the backstory. It's the brainwashing. It's punishing people for their beliefs, and people are hating their own families on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's very similar to what's happening here. Also in Ukraine, it's like you're taught that the people that are on the Russian side are bad, or they're saying that they're Nazis. So and those are families pitting families against families. So okay, so
That's lovely.
all right,
Thank
so
you
we're
very
gonna
much.
just wrap this up. Are there any parting words or wisdom that you would like to leave with us?
I just think don't send money unless you know where it's going. Number one, that's not helping, it's feeding someone else. That's my main thing. And just check where it's going if you're going to send money. And if you're going to take someone in your home, be prepared. Don't think you're going to have an ordinary family that's going to continue with two people, because it's not.
Okay, and one last thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It has been an honor and a pleasure to be able to chat with you this
Thank you.
afternoon. How can we follow you?
Well, the Ukraine, I don't have anything to follow me on Ukraine.
Or
because it's been done
on
from me.
YouTube
I'm on,
or
yes,
hashtag
I'm
or-
on Films Without Borders on
Twitter?
Yes.
Okay, so films on Twitter?
On
Or
Instagram and on Facebook and stuff like that. Yeah.
Films Without Borders on Instagram, on Facebook, and what do we say? Twitter, Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yes.
And if you are able to, do you all recruit volunteers? Or?
We do recruit volunteers in the countries we work in.
Okay.
So, if we come to Africa, if we come to America, we recruit, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you
you
very
so
much.
much.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you.